This audiobook is not for everyone. It is not for people who need constant validation. It is not for people who are afraid of silence. This book is for the one person who feels there is more inside them, more discipline, more power, more potential, but the noise of the world keeps pulling them back. If you feel misunderstood, distracted, tired of explaining yourself, tired of being average, tired of being available to everyone but yourself, then listen carefully. This audiobook may be the turning point of your life, not because it motivates you for one day, but because it teaches you how to disappear long enough to become dangerous. Staying alone is not loneliness. Staying alone is strategy. It is the space where weak habits die and strong identities are born. Most people are broke not because they lack talent, but because they lack isolation. The world trains you to be visible before you are ready, to talk before you have results, to explain dreams that haven't been built yet. And every time you do that, you leak energy. You don't need more friends. You need more focus. You don't need more opinions. You need more silence, because silence is where the work happens. Look around you. Everyone is connected, yet nobody is committed. Everyone is busy, yet nobody is building anything real. The people who changed their lives did not do it in crowds. They did it in rooms where nobody clapped. They did it on days nobody posted. They did it in seasons where nobody knew their name. That is why this message is simple but uncomfortable. Stay alone until your discipline is louder than your excuses, until your habits shock people, until your mindset scares weak minds, until your results introduce you. Being alone removes distractions, but more importantly, it removes illusions. When you are alone, there is no one to impress, no one to blame, no one to copy, only truth. And truth is brutal. You realize how much time you wasted, how many hours you donated to people who never invested back, how many dreams you delayed because you wanted company. Staying alone forces accountability. It exposes laziness. It kills fake motivation. And that is exactly why most people avoid it. They fear silence because silence confronts them with who they really are. But you must lean into it, because growth does not happen in comfort. Growth happens in controlled isolation. Every elite performer understands this. Athletes isolate before championships. Entrepreneurs disappear before breakthroughs. Warriors train alone before battles. Yet average people fear being alone. They confuse solitude with weakness. In reality, solitude is power. When you stay alone, you stop absorbing other people's limitations. You stop inheriting their fears. You stop shrinking your goals to fit their comfort. Your mind becomes sharper. Your standards rise. Your tolerance for nonsense drops. You begin to see clearly. You notice how people only support you when your dreams are small. You notice how advice increases when effort is required. You notice how everyone has opinions but no discipline. And that clarity changes you. You start waking up earlier, working longer, complaining less. Not because someone told you to, but because silence rewired you. Staying alone builds self-respect, and self-respect builds unstoppable momentum. You stop chasing motivation. You become consistent. You stop announcing plans. You execute quietly. You stop explaining absences. You understand priorities. This is where the transformation begins. Not externally, internally. Your identity starts shifting. You are no longer the person who needs approval. You are no longer available for meaningless conversations. You are no longer addicted to distraction. You become selective with your energy. And that is dangerous in a good way, because once you protect your energy, your progress accelerates. The people around you will feel the change before you say a word. They will say you are distant, different, cold. Let them. They are reacting to the loss of access, not your growth. You are not becoming heartless. You are becoming focused. You are not ignoring people. You are listening to your future. This phase will feel uncomfortable. You will miss old versions of yourself. You will question if it's worth it. It is. Because comfort keeps people recognizable. Discipline makes you unrecognizable. And that is the goal. Not to impress people, not to be liked, but to become someone your past self would never believe possible. Stay alone long enough, and your habits will change. Your thinking will change. Your standards will change. Eventually, your life will change. And when you return, you won't need to explain anything. Your results will speak. At some point, something strange begins to happen when you stay alone long enough. You stop craving attention. You stop reacting. You stop explaining yourself. And that's when real power starts forming. Isolation does not make you weak. It removes weakness when there is no one watching, no one clapping, no one judging. You finally see who you really are, not who you pretend to be, not who social media rewards you for being, but who you are when discipline is the only witness. This is where elite discipline is born, because discipline does not come from motivation. It comes from boredom, from repetition, from doing the same hard thing again and again when nobody cares. Most people quit here. They say they are burned out. They say they are lost. What they really are is uncomfortable without distraction. But you must stay, because every hour you survive alone sharpens your mind. Every quiet morning builds your standards. Every lonely night strengthens your resolve. This is the phase where average people fall away. They stop calling, they stop checking on you, they stop inviting you. And instead of panicking, you should smile, because this is confirmation. You are outgrowing environments that were never meant to support greatness. People don't abandon you when you are failing. They abandon you when you stop being relatable, when your discipline makes them uncomfortable, when your focus exposes their excuses, when your silence reminds them of the work they are avoiding. That is why disappearing scares people, not because they miss you, but because your absence forces them to face themselves. And while they talk, you build. While they scroll, you train your mind. While they gossip, you compound skills. While they sleep, you sharpen your edge. This is how separation creates dominance. You begin to value time differently. You no longer waste hours on meaningless conversations. You protect mornings. You guard nights. Your routine becomes sacred, and slowly, your identity changes again. You are no longer driven by emotion. You are driven by structure. You don't wait to feel ready. You move because it's scheduled. You don't chase pleasure. You tolerate discomfort. That's when life starts bending. Opportunities appear, confidence rises, clarity becomes normal, not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped needing validation to act. You stopped needing permission to grow. And here's the truth most people will never understand. Being alone is temporary. Weakness is permanent. You isolate not to escape the world, but to return stronger than it expects. You are not disappearing forever. You are upgrading. This phase feels invisible, but invisibility is leverage, because nobody competes with someone they cannot see. Nobody sabotages what they don't know exists. You move quietly. You improve silently. You win unexpectedly. This is how legends are built, not in crowds, not in chaos, but in controlled solitude. Soon, your mind becomes calm under pressure. Your reactions slow down. Your decisions improve. You don't rush. You don't panic. You don't chase. You choose. And that makes you dangerous. Because disciplined people cannot be controlled. Focused people cannot be manipulated. Self-reliant people cannot be broken. You stop fearing rejection. You stop fearing failure. You stop fearing being alone, because you've already mastered it. And once you master solitude, you master yourself. This is the moment you cross a line. You will never again fit into your old life. Old conversations will feel empty. Old habits will feel heavy. Old versions of you will feel embarrassing. And that is growth. You are becoming unrecognizable, not to impress others, but because you refuse to stay small. Stay in this phase. Protect it, because what comes next is the part where results begin to show. And when they do, people will ask what happened to you. They won't realize you were alone the whole time. There comes a moment when the silence pays you back. Not with noise, not with applause, but with results. This is the phase where your effort starts compounding, where small disciplines stack into massive momentum, where the work you did in isolation begins to reshape your reality. And here's the part most people don't expect. Success feels quiet. There is no dramatic celebration. No instant validation, just a calm certainty that you are no longer the same person. You wake up different. You think different. You move with purpose. You don't rush into conversations anymore. You don't feel the need to explain your journey. Because your confidence no longer comes from being understood, it comes from knowing. This is when people start noticing. They'll say, "You're lucky." They'll say it happened fast. They'll say, "You changed." Let them talk. They didn't see the mornings you chose discipline over comfort. They didn't see the nights you sat alone building something that didn't exist yet. They didn't feel the doubt you learned to silence. They only see the outcome, never the cost. And that's fine. Because you didn't build this life for approval, you built it for freedom. At this stage, your biggest strength is emotional control. You don't react to disrespect. You don't chase attention. You don't argue with opinions. You understand something most people never learn. Energy is currency, and you no longer spend it on things that don't grow you. Your standards rise again. You become selective with people, selective with work, selective with opportunities, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. You've seen what focus can do, and you refuse to go back. Old distractions feel expensive now. Old habits feel dangerous. Old excuses feel embarrassing. You realize you were never tired. You were distracted. You were never lost. You were listening to too many voices. Now there is only one voice that matters, the one that kept going when nobody was watching. This is where unrecognizable people separate permanently, because success changes relationships. Some people will feel inspired by your growth. Others will feel threatened. They'll test you. They'll question your priorities. They'll try to pull you back into familiar patterns. This is the final test, not of discipline, but of identity. You must choose who you are now, because growth demands sacrifice, and comfort always wants you back. But you already know the truth. You know how small your old life was. You know how much potential you've buried to stay comfortable. You know what isolation gave you, and you will not trade that for familiarity. At this point, being alone no longer scares you, because you are no longer alone inside your mind. You trust yourself. You keep promises to yourself. You respect your own time. You follow through. That trust changes everything. You stop seeking motivation. You become reliable. And reliable people win long-term. Not loudly, not quickly, but permanently. This is when your presence changes a room, when people listen differently, when opportunities come to you, not because you demanded attention, but because you earned authority. You don't announce goals. You move in silence. You don't chase recognition. You let impact speak. You are no longer trying to be seen. You are focused on becoming undeniable. And here is the final truth. Staying alone was never the goal. Becoming unrecognizable was. Unrecognizable to distraction. Unrecognizable to excuses. Unrecognizable to weakness. You built a version of yourself that does not negotiate with comfort. And once you become that person, life has no choice but to respond, because the world does not reward potential. It rewards discipline. And discipline was built in silence. There is a calm that only comes after you have survived yourself. Not the kind of calm that avoids struggle, but the kind that knows it can handle anything. This is who you are now. You no longer rush. You no longer force outcomes. You no longer need to prove your worth, because you've already done the hardest work. You built a mind that does not break under pressure. The silence that once felt heavy now feels like home. You are comfortable being alone because you are no longer empty. You are focused. You are aligned. You are prepared. This is the final shift. You stop measuring success by speed. You stop comparing paths. You stop explaining choices. You understand that real power moves patiently. You've seen how fast emotions fade and how long discipline lasts. So you build slowly. You decide carefully. You speak less and mean more. People will feel your presence differently now, not because you are louder, but because you are grounded. Not because you dominate conversations, but because you don't need them. Your confidence is quiet. Your standards are high. Your boundaries are firm. And that combination changes everything. You no longer chase people. You attract alignment. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You value being respected. You no longer fear failure. You trust your ability to rebuild. This is what solitude gave you. Not isolation from the world, but independence within it. You can walk alone without feeling lost. You can lead without needing approval. You can win without announcing it. And here's the truth most people never reach. The goal was never to stay alone forever. The goal was to become someone who can stand alone and choose connection from strength, not need. Now, when you let people into your life, they meet the real you, not the distracted version, not the insecure version, not the over-explaining version, They meet someone who knows their direction, someone who values time, someone who protects energy, someone who does not negotiate with comfort. You have become unrecognizable, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally became who you were meant to be. The world will try to pull you back into noise, into urgency, into comparison. But you know better now. You've lived in silence. You've built in darkness. You've trained when nobody cared. And that experience cannot be taken from you. So move forward with patience, with discipline, with intention. You don't need to rush success. You are already ahead. Stay committed to the habits that saved you. Stay loyal to the standards that shaped you. Stay grounded in the silence that strengthened you. Because even as life gets louder, you will remain calm. And that is the mark of someone truly powerful. Stay alone when needed. Stand strong always. And remember, you didn't disappear to escape life. You disappeared to return unrecognizable.